What if what we call public opinion was just a manufactured narrative that makes it easier to convince people that if their views are different, that there's something wrong with that or there's something wrong with them?
Spending is a tax. As soon as the government spends money, eventually it's a tax. Sometimes we put a direct tax on the people, sometimes we borrow the money, and sometimes we print the money.
Freedom and the dignity of the individual have been more available and assured here than in any other place on earth.
The Patrick Riggins Show. And now your host, Patrick Riggins.
Listening to some music sent in by one of the fans of the show. This particular song is by Jason Hodge and entitled, I have to get this title right, Diabolical Man. Not Diabolical Man. Diabolical Man. Obviously a play on diabolical and political. A fitting title giving all that is happening in our government nowadays. You are tuned into the one show making the waves needing to be made. Rocking that boat of American life each week as a proud member of the Libertarian Lighthouse Radio Network. This is the Patrick Riggins Show, bringing you another hour of broadcast reason, logic, and good old American values upon which this country was built. There are those who are trying to undermine the firm foundation, like termites that are trying to hollow out the foundation of this great country and leave us with a shell of we once were. But I won't let them do that, and you won't let them either. So together we'll fight against these traitors who would rather have government handle every problem than have to face life themselves. And that's fine and dandy as long as they want to move to a country that fits that paradigm. Stop trying to make our country into a bastion of oppression disguised as some sort of bastardized form of freedom and liberty. All right, this week on the show, to start out, I want to ask you just a quick question. And for some of you, you may remember this, and some of you may not. Do you remember the furor that erupted a few years ago when it was discovered that Google was logging Wi-Fi hotspots while the company's cars were out taking pictures for its Street View service? Or the uproar over Apple tracking the movements of their iPhones and then storing that information in a file on the actual device. Now, when this came out, government was demanding explanations. The media was talking about all these invasions of privacy. If I remember correctly, a few countries in Europe even brought up some charges for violations of their privacy laws in those particular countries. Everyone felt like they're being watched. The point I'm getting to is, here we have the NSA doing even worse, violating the Constitution. It is unconstitutional what the NSA, the government, is doing. Absolutely no argument. Now, it's legal. Sure, they passed a law stating that it was okay, but it's not constitutional. I noted that on last week's show. Even had a soundbite from Judge Andrew Napolitano stating the same thing. If you want to hear it, you can go to youtube.com/Patrick Riggins Show if you want to listen to last week's show. But the question is, who wins in this? A law passed by Congress or the Constitution? Now, unfortunately, it seems that Congress and the government win, which is clearly wrong. Where are all the people screaming about this? Where are all the people protesting what the government is doing? And a guy who revealed it all is on the run for his life. You heard it on the news during the break here. Congress and the government want his head. They say he's a traitor. But is he? Is Edward Snowden a traitor for telling us what we needed to know? For pointing out the people in government, our employees, they are betraying us. If there are any traitors in this equation, it's Congress and the government betraying the citizens of this country. What Edward Snowden did was constitutional. He did not violate the Constitution of the United States of America. But what the government and Congress are doing does violate the Constitution. And not just in this case, but practically every day. If I had a 7 days a week show, I still couldn't get to everything the government is doing that is not allowed by our Constitution. Every day, every single day. And Edward Snowden, he's the traitor, the person betraying our country. The only thing he betrayed was the government, the club he was a member of. Everyone in there is doing the same thing, trying to get away with as much as they can. But the federal prosecutors have filed charges against Mr. Snowden. He's the traitor. And you may say, yeah, Patrick, that's awful, but what can I do about it? It's simple. Call your congressional representatives. Demand they get these charges dropped. Demand they stop all this spying on the citizens of this country. You are their boss. If you owned a business and had laid down some rules for how you wanted your employees to behave, would you tolerate it if they didn't follow those orders? If you told your secretary, hey, don't listen to my conversations through my office door, and then you caught them doing it, would you not fire them immediately? What if they said, hey, I'm only listening to see if you might call for help. I'm doing it to keep you safe. Would it be okay then? Oh, sure, if you're doing it for my safety. Oh, go right ahead and listen at my office door. Heck, pick up the phone and listen to my phone conversations. Oh, wait, the government claims they're not doing that. So let's take them at their word, if you can say that without laughing. But let's say your secretary is only writing down every number that calls in and every number you call and how long you talk. Is that okay to do? Because, you see, if they're doing that, then if someone robs you, then the police can go back through all these records to see if maybe the robbers might have called first to find out about your security system or ask about your store hours. So all this information is collected just in case they need it, all for your safety. Would you allow that to happen in your own business or office? If no, then why are you allowing your government or your employees in government to do it? Why aren't you ringing the phones of your representatives off the hook in Washington? Why aren't you flooding their email inboxes with complaints? Go to your congressional representatives' public appearances and ask them to their face what's going on in government, and then demand they do something about it. Don't ask. Don't say, hey, if you got the time, can you check into this? No, demand they do something. If they don't, tell them you'll get them kicked out of office at the next election. Then do it. Don't make an idle threat, because that only emboldens these people. Find someone to run for their seat, even you, and get elected. With the anger people are feeling towards Washington and in government in general right now, this is the perfect time to put together a campaign and run for office. Promise to get government out of everyone's hair. Stop all this spying and violating of our rights. Promise that, and more importantly, do it when you win. Heck, if you're needing publicity, call this radio station, tell them you want to be on my show. WOKI, Oak Kingston Pike here in Knoxville, Tennessee. If you can't get through that way, email us, patrickriggenshow@gmail.com. Sure, the NSA is going to be sucking it into their databases, but you're there already. They're tracking everything you do through your internet provider, so unless you have your own line to the internet backbone, they've got your information. You might as well give those nosy bureaucrats something to do while they sit around taking a paycheck for violating your rights. That email address, again, if you need it, is patrickriggenshow@gmail.com altogether. And Riggins is spelled R-I-G-G-I-N-S. patrickriggenshow@gmail.com. Now, this is a big problem, and no one wants to talk about it. The government wants to divert your attention to the fact that Edward Snowden's a traitor. End of story. That's all there is to it. Nothing to see here. He's a traitor. And hey, look, now we're talking about immigration. That's a hot button issue to distract you from all this spying. Don't you want to talk about that? These evil illegals coming into this country? You better look out. We're going to give them amnesty. We're going to let them stay and take your jobs. Hey, look. See those shiny keys we're dangling in front of you? Pay attention to that and don't worry about these constitutional violations, these invasions of your privacy. What's the real danger here? It's other people in government are watching these scandals to see what happens. Is anyone going to jail? Is anyone really getting in trouble? Or are they just being fired and rehired in another agency or by another company that maybe they're friendly to the government, a defense contractor or a lobbying firm? If no drastic action is taken, if this is just a little summer scandal that's gone by the end of the summer, then what are we telling people who would like to do this same thing? This isn't the first time this happened. The EPA has been trampling people's rights. The DEA, the ATF, the Department of Homeland Security, Justice Department, the Educational Department has been trampling parents' rights. All these agencies continue to do this type of thing because we let them. Oh, sure, we'll be mad for a few months, but we'll get over it. Heck, half this country is on public payroll in the form of government aid. Add to that all the government employees and families of those government employees. With all those people, you think they're going to want to reform government? Do you think they're going to be pressing for the government to reduce the intrusion, the spying it is doing, when these same people are receiving direct government aid, charity, or paycheck or otherwise? All right, we're up on the first break here on the Patrick Regan Show. Started off strong, and we're going to continue running strong. When we come back, we're going to talk a little bit about this whole Syrian thing again, because apparently our government just doesn't understand, and unfortunately there's a lot of people in this country who don't either. We'll be back in a couple of minutes here on the Patrick Regan Show with a lot more to come.